Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on Winsight Live. Before I kick it over to Phil, a couple of stories that are fresh up on Winsight Grocery Business. Grocery Outlet confirmed our reporting earlier this year that they will be opening stores on the East Coast next year, 3 to 5 stores in the Philadelphia area. That comes as the company reported third quarter financial results. Kind of a mixed bag there. Obviously strong revenue growth still, but maybe a little bit less than some of the analysts were anticipating, and a forecast for kind of mid-single digit comps, which, in Grocery Outlet's case, they were doing before the pandemic, was a little bit of a cause for concern, I think, among some of the investment community. But that's an interesting company. They're growing 10% stores a year, so 35 stores next year. And an increasing number of them are going to be on the East Coast. So that's interesting stuff. We also have a thing up on Walmart, kind of firing their robot fleet that they had rolled out with Bossa Nova Robotics. These robots they spoke very highly of early in the test that they had, and had ordered as many for 1,000 stores by the end of this year. But the Wall Street Journal reported last week that test is over. What I wrote about was a little bit of my own reflections on that, having seen them in action in the stores, talking to a couple of industry people also in the robotics field. And the takeaway is pretty simple. It's not robots that are sort of here to stay. It's technological innovation in service of more efficiency. And the means of which they do that is sort of they're on their own, just like a can of beans at a Costco store, right? If it doesn't sell, it's not going to be on the shelf. And if for whatever reason, it's not delivering the return on investment and efficiency benefits, they're going to move on to something else. And Walmart's already doing other things with that. Interestingly enough, they kind of said to the Journal that their employees were doing that. I don't think it's as simple as that. You kind of have to go back into some of the things that some of their people have said. Tom Ward, one of their tech gurus, has talked about the fact that they're sending their employees out to the shelves to do so much shopping off them for e-commerce orders that they've enabled the handhelds that they use to do that will check the inventory a little bit. So that's one way they're probably solving that. But so not a great day for Bossa Nova Robotics, not necessarily a bad day for robotics, and the march for technology moves on, Phil.
And John, what about the whole human factor? One of the things that I kept on hearing from consumers, whether it was at Walmart or other stores that have these robots, that initially it's kind of cute. They take a selfie with them. Then after that, they sort of like get in the way. It freaks some shoppers out. They just don't like the idea of seeing them. And there are other technologies, and I would call it robotic, that, for example, I saw a couple of years ago that along the shelf, the top of the shelf, was actually a camera that would move back and forth, and it would take inventory of the shelf that was opposite it. And nobody even knew that there's a camera in there and stuff. So you could achieve this kind of metric without having to have a 6-foot high robot chasing after you.
Correct. And there's, like I said, there's all kinds of solutions, and we've got some of the vendors that are kind of pushing solutions like that. Spoke to us for that article. But as to the whether the robots, you're right, going down the aisle, it's kind of cool to see. I think most people are used to it by now. Like my local Stop and Shop's got the Marty going up and down, and you can hear there's a spill over here, and there's an apple on the floor that's fallen off the thing. People get used to it. They're still shopping there, so there's different ways to do that.
Yeah. So talking about scary things coming off the robots, I don't know if you all are seeing the same thing, but I think that the industry is doing a little harm to itself, already calling out what products. Kroger, I think, was the first one that they're limiting as we go through, wave number 2, if you would, of COVID-19, limiting toilet paper, limiting paper towels. HEB is doing the same thing. Publix is doing the same thing. Are we really frightening people into stockpiling, or what we've seen certain companies like Frito-Lay, Pepsi, PepsiCo said that, because of what happened during the first pandemic, they've built up inventories so they won't have shortages this time around. I think other companies have done that. Progresso Soup, Campbell Soup, they've reduced SKUs so that they don't have the problem with production. I just like everybody's opinion to see, are we forcing people to hoard by scaring them a bit? Jen, what do you think?
Well, I think that, the message that's accompanied that, certainly with folks like HEB, has been, we do have plenty of inventory, so don't freak out, don't panic buy, but the limits are there so that, because that's, people are going to do that if they can, probably, like, as they hear that, the numbers are going up, and they're going to get scared. The holidays are coming, and they will do that, stocking up, unless there are limits put on the products. But I don't think it's, the message isn't that the inventory isn't there. It is.
But for me, it's what the consumer hears, not necessarily that we've got enough product and stuff like that, but they just read the headline, whether it's in the newspaper or the news, that says, okay, limits. In just scanning a lot of stories yesterday and today. I mean, the headlines aren't saying, we're putting in limits, but we've got enough inventory. They're just saying we're putting in limits.
Yeah.
Jackson, are you seeing any C-stores doing this as well?
Not as I don't think. I mean, C-store have their own sets of supply chain issues during this time. And there's a really fine line between being customers of potential supply chain issues and fear mongering. I think it kind of just reflects the reality that we're in right now. I don't think we were really prepared when supply chain lines broke down earlier this year. And I think this is just the market's trying to be a little more upfront and honest about it so that we don't run into quite the same issues. But as you pointed out, there's certainly a danger of scaring people.
So, Pat, when we look at restaurants, the survival of a lot of restaurants, even though I think NRA reports that 100,000 restaurants have closed, but the survival of other restaurants has been outdoor dining. It's getting to be winter. So yeah, we're going to see, people outside dining in winter coats and hats, which isn't going to be a great experience, or at least it wouldn't be for me. What else are restaurants doing to, quote unquote, winterize themselves?
Well, they're doing more than just getting heat lamps and blankets, like a lot of, reports show. A lot of them are winterizing their menus, and they're creating things that will stay warm when they're taken outside. So they're serving like mac and cheese in a cast iron skillet, or a stew in like a Le Creuset pot, so that it stays warm and they keep a lid on it. And one restaurant that does a lot of pastas, they told me that pastas really like start congealing right away when you bring them out into the cold. So instead, they're serving the pasta with a broth, and they bring the broth out in a thermos and pour it over the pasta in the bowl so it stays really warm. And they're also doing a lot of hot cocktails. Hot toddies are really coming back. Spiked hot chocolate, Irish coffee. Those things are really trending up.
So all of you, except for us here in Southern California, are going to be facing winter, whether it's Chicago, New York, Denver, and so on. Are you guys going to go out outdoor dining in those coats and blankets? And I love the idea of macaroni and cheese in that hot skillet. But are you guys going to do that?
Well, I am because I really want to support restaurants. And I actually sat at brunch a couple of weeks ago with my down coat on, and it was okay. um, I think people are, right now, a lot of restaurants are closing indoor dining because states like New York and Chicago and Illinois and some cities in California are limiting indoor dining now. So outdoor is really the only choice. And I really think restaurants are doing all they can to accommodate people. They're even speeding up service. So, instead of like multi-coursing a meal, they're bringing out all the courses at once in these warm utensils so that people can get in and out quicker. So I'm
smart.
still
That's a
for it.
smart
I'll
idea.
see ask me again in January how I feel though.
Okay, and John, what about you and your family? You going to go out and,
I'll be honest, Phil, we haven't been out much at all really since the beginning of the pandemic. I'm trying to think the last time we went and got a drink over the weekend. It was a beautiful weekend in New York. Kind of a great day
Yeah.
to sit outside and enjoy yourself. So, that wasn't much of an issue. But you know what? With the COVID rate's up over 3% again in the city. Kids not going to school. We're gonna kind of be pretty careful about where we're gonna be. And as much as we'd like to support restaurants, we're probably not going to be doing a whole lot of it, at least not for the next couple of weeks.
Jackson, what about you?
Yeah, it's tough. My wife and I, we went a few times during the summer, went out to get some drinks and winners with friends, but we came after those feeling a little uncomfortable and like we'd broken the rules, even though that was allowed at that time. And frankly, I think we're probably going to be playing it safe this winter. Now, I would be curious to try out one of those climate controlled pods. My wife and I actually did that for our anniversary a couple of years ago, and I think that seems like a pretty smart solution. But I don't. I don't think you're going to get a weekly report from me talking about the restaurant scene in Chicago. That's for sure.
Yeah, and in Denver?
Yeah, so I've seen a couple of restaurants. Denver did a lot with outdoor seating. Closing some roads to traffic and then putting tables and chairs in the street on streets where there's like more than one restaurant. And then I've seen some other restaurants putting up like plexiglass around their outdoor patio to kind of try to extend the sort of half inside, half outside dining experience. I thought that was, a pretty good idea if you're getting kind of some fresh air, but you're a little bit protected from the wind, racing across your face as you're trying to eat a meal. So I'll keep an eye on it. I'm open to it.
Okay. So Jen, tell us about Healthy Living Market. What's going on there?
Yeah, so I thought this was interesting because, we've kind of talked about this before, that maybe there's a space for, a mid-size natural foods grocer to expand in the country, kind of be another option to like a Sprouts or a New Seasons. And I interviewed the CEO of Healthy Living Markets, Eli Lesser Goldsmith. And he says that their goal, they just opened their third store. It's in Williston, Vermont. They have another store in Vermont in South Burlington, and then a third store in Saratoga, New York. They're also well underway to open their fourth store in Shelburne, Vermont. And then they've got a fifth location that he's not ready to talk about yet. But, going after this market, he wants to be the Northeast's leading mid-size natural grocer. And he's describing their expansion plans as sustainable but aggressive. And this is a family-run business. The business was started by his mother back in 1986. So they have a long, track record with this community, and it'll be interesting to watch them and see, if they can achieve their goals. And he also said that, places like New Seasons and Fresh Time and Sprouts are kind of aspirational for them. And their model is that they believe that, a great grocery store makes a great community. And he is really behind the idea of like mindful grocery shopping versus, he said so much of it is just mindless where you're pulling things off the shelf, preservatives or whatever. And he really wants to create a place of mindful shopping.
Did he share at all how he views other retailers like Whole Foods?
He didn't comment on Whole Foods, but I think that, he's not really considering, I asked him about his competition and he said it's everyone and no one, because he really sees what they do as unique. And I think he probably thinks of Whole Foods as kind of the big guys, because he did mention, like I said, the, small, more mid-size natural food retailers. So I think he's going after a different shopper.
Well, it would be great. They should open up one here in Santa Monica. Hey, Jackson, what's going on with the whole subscription business these days, especially as it relates to C-stores?
So, as usual, C-stores are being the followers, if you will, of trends such as subscriptions. I think this is a big signal for this industry that Paytronix, a loyalty provider, has opened up a subscription tool so that convenience stores and restaurants can have their own, easier to implement subscription program. And I think this is kind of a sign of convenience stores coming around to the idea that subscriptions can be profitable and can drive more traffic. And this is just another sign of the pandemic sort of pushing convenience stores a little further into the future. Paytron, a couple of statistics that I thought were really interesting, that 34% of Americans plan on adding even more subscriptions in the next couple of years. And I think C-stores are seeing on the wall. You already some convenience stores that have their own subscription programs. Cumberland, for instance, has a coffee subscription that's been successful. But I think more of the industry as a whole is starting to come around to the idea.
So besides coffee, what kind of products are on these subscription plans?
Well, frankly, coffee and food service is those are the big, but I think room, and I think from Paytronix signals that there's a lot of room, not just for coffee and food service. There are a ton of synergies that convenience stores are figuring out to deliver during the pandemic. And I think they're starting to put two and two together, that you can combine a delivery service and a subscription service to optimize profits and to get more customers.
Sure. And the good news about the subscription plans, from everything that I've read, is people usually never cancel them.
That's right.
They get your credit card, and then for life. And every month when you get your credit card bill, you say, I really need to cancel that, whatever that is, whether it's a software subscription or food, and you never do. I mean, I had bought a Quip, the toothbrush, when it first came out, and got on their subscription plan and so on. And it probably, I went back to using a regular toothbrush, but I probably have, 4 or 5 packages of Quip refills sitting in my, bathroom drawer, because by the time I got around to it, and they don't make it easy to cancel things. I mean, you can't just go online and hit a button that says cancel. You got to call them. You got to wait. It goes to a service. Then they ask you, what credit card did you use? I have no idea what credit card I used on a subscription 4 years ago,
Right.
and so on. So it's just painful to cancel these subscriptions as well. We need to figure out how to do a subscription plan for Winsight Live with people.
Oh yeah, you should take notes from the Tribune. I can't get away.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, Jen, why don't you wrap us up with some good news?
Sure. So Aldi is doing something really nice for Thanksgiving. They're giving all of their, and it's Aldi US, all of their US employees 2 $30 gift cards, with the idea that they can pay it forward. So use one of the $30 gift cards for themselves, and give one to a family member or friend. And they're saying that $30, roughly covers the main ingredients for a turkey dinner for for 10. And I think, John, you know, you did a little research on exactly how many employees are getting those two $30 gift cards.
Well, according to their website, they have, what did I say, 250? I can't remember how many employees they have. It's in the story. But it came, I did the math, and whatever it is, multiplied by $60 is 1.5 million.
Yeah, that's, I mean, what a great,
yeah.
1.5 million is a generous Thanksgiving gift to employees.
Yeah, no, it's great. And what I love about what you just said, Jen, is that they're giving them two cards. One that you can give to a friend or a family in need, or even give to a charity, you know, like the Salvation Army or someone else, where somebody in need can really, you know, use it. So that would be great. But, you know, they're saying $30 can feed a family or a gathering of 10 people. It just also reinforces for Aldi their marketing strategy that says Aldi is the cheapest retailer out there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that includes a 12-pound turkey. So, and a gallon of milk, and, you know, sweet potatoes, and, you know, so, and it's, you can buy a lot. $30 seems to go a long way at Aldi.
At Aldi, yeah. But how many of you guys serve milk at Thanksgiving? That's just
Well, I think it's like for maybe like making mashed potatoes, or, you know, you use
okay.
you know, a lot of baking.
I guess no wine is included in the $30.
Sadly, no.
No.
Oh, well. Not the apples. You know, there's a lot of caveats to it. You know, in Aldi's defense, they based it on you know, some food council recommendation for a Thanksgiving meal. But you know, yeah, Phil, you're right. The price point matters because, you know, with Aldi and some of the limited assortment guys, the trend toward trip consolidation has really kind of left these guys out in a lot of ways. So they've got to pull the levers that they have, and of course, value and you know, value and price is you know, one of Aldi's best you know, advantages. So they got to use it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining us today on Winsight Live. Have a great weekend. Be safe, wear a mask, and be sure to visit us again next Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more episodes of Winsight Live. And also past episodes are available on Restaurant Business, CSP, Winsight Grocery Business, and Supermarket Guru. Have a great weekend.